Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kaki, and this is my podcast, Ambient 3D Animations. Today we are going to talk about buoyancy when it comes to Pyro simulations inside of Cinema 4D. Now, I think that buoyancy is such an interesting topic for physics, so I actually left some videos in the description that go over how to calculate buoyancy and talk about density and how that affects buoyancy, as well as temperature and that whole subject of physics. So if you are interested in learning more about that like I was, you can check out those links in the description. For right now, I'm just going to focus on how these settings affect your simulations inside of Cinema 4D. So let's go ahead and get started. So here we are inside of Cinema 4D, and I'm very excited to go over density with you today because I think it's really interesting. I'm going to drop a sphere into our scene. I'm going to change it to be 30 for the radius, so that's a little bit smaller, and our simulations go a little bit quicker. I'll right click on it, go down to our simulation tags, and add in a Pyro emitter. So if I start this at the beginning and press play, you'll see we have a fire. When I added in the emitter, it added in a Pyro output. If you'd like to learn more about the emitter or the Pyro output, I'll leave links to those episodes in the description, so you can check those out if you'd like to learn more. You can find settings to control the buoyancy in your project settings. So the way you can enter that is Control D or Command D for a Mac. And you'll see we have our simulation settings in here. We have simulation selected, Pyro selected. Under our extra forces general, you'll find different types of buoyancy settings. So we have our density buoyancy, we have our temperature buoyancy, and we have our fuel buoyancy. So density is the mass of an object divided by the volume. And relative density determines whether if it has a force pushing that object up or down. So let's talk about an example. Imagine you have a body of water and you have a large ship in that water. So the reason why that ship is floating is because its mass divided by its volume is less, a lower density than the water's density. So it floats. So that is the basics of how the density works. And this is true for fluids in physics, which include both liquids and gases. They are able to flow and deform continuously when a force is acting on them. So this is actually a fluid simulation in here, this fire. And let's play around with the density and adjust it. So by default, it's at -5. If we take this further down in the negative direction and press play, you can see that it's starting to move up a little bit quicker. It's at -389. I'm going to increase this. And I increased it to 1057. And now it's going down. It's a positive number, so the density is higher. And you can see that this is pushing it down. The buoyancy force is pushing the fluid simulation down. So that's how that is working. And if you just make this a low number in the positive direction, you can see that's still going up because there's this other factor called the temperature buoyancy, and it needs to be high enough to overcome this temperature affecting the buoyancy. So what does temperature have to do with this? I'm going to put this back at the default for the density buoyancy. When something is cold, the molecules come closer together and because of that, they become more dense. When something is hot, the molecules go further apart and they move more quickly, so it becomes less dense. So that's actually why hot air balloons are able to float, because they have that buoyancy force from the heat. So I think that's really interesting. And we can play around with this here inside Cinema 4D. So I can increase the temperature buoyancy quite a bit, and I can see, whoa, this is moving really, really fast. We have quite the buoyancy force here. Or we could make this lower. And now you can see it's going in the negative direction. So that is really fun to play around with, I feel. And if you do have a forceful animation like this, sometimes you'll need more sub-steps in order for it to look right. So if you want to learn about that, you might want to check out the episode on sub-steps. I'm going to right-click on this arrow to set it back at the default. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the fuel buoyancy. And this one always reminds me of a rocket ship, which is fun. So fuel buoyancy, this determines what direction the fuel is going. So let's adjust the fuel buoyancy. I'm going to try increasing it. So I increased it. It's a positive number of 804, and you can see that is directed downwards. So this would be a good way to work if you had a rocket ship and you wanted the fuel to be pointed downwards, like a rocket ship. If you make it in the negative direction, it'll go the opposite direction. I'm going to make this a positive number again. So that's going downwards. And let's just say that this is a rocket ship. We're going to pretend that this is a rocket ship. And because of that, we want this to take off on a surface. So I'm going to add in a plane. I'm going to right-click on this plane, add a simulation tag, add in a collider. I'm just going to drop this down a bit, make it a little bit bigger. So now that we've added in a collider tag here, if I start this at the beginning and I press play, you'll see that it is interacting with that surface there. I'm going to add in some more frames in here. And let's just say this is taking off like a rocket ship. We can move that up. So that's kind of fun to play around with. If any of you are interested in 3D modeling a rocket ship, please let me know. And if enough people are interested in it, I'll make an episode where we do that for fun. That pretty much covers our buoyancy options inside of Cinema 4D. It's fun to play with. And again, just as a reminder, if you are interested in learning more about the physics behind buoyancy and how to calculate it, I left a few videos in the description that I found where I think people explain it really well, how to calculate it and such, if you're interested. And thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to be notified when the next episode comes out, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you'll be notified when that next episode comes out. Thank you so much for working on Pyro simulations with me. I greatly appreciate it.